Hi, I'm Melody White, and I am here I'm campaigning for us as a people to learn to live with your heart wide open. And I think that starts with me learning to do it and sharing what that's meant for me and seeing if any of that resonates with you guys out there. The idea came to me about a year ago when I was under a particularly very difficult time, had been deeply wounded. I don't know if I want to say from another, but it felt like that. And I wanted to still love this person and hold space for that love. I didn't want to lose that love, even though I knew the situation was changing. And it really challenged me and helped me see that I could close off my heart because I was wounded and let go of that love for that person and move on and go ahead and construct a wall and maybe not be hurt again. But I realized if I did that, I would close off part of my heart. And so I didn't want to do that. I wanted to hold space for that person, not to stay in that relationship, but to continue to love them. And for that, I had to understand where that person was operating from and where I was operating from, and those things could shift at different times. I could be operating from one place and that person from another, but it really expanded my understanding about where we operate as human beings from. And there is only two places that we as humans respond or react from. And those are called two chief operating forces, and they are love and fear. If I am operating out of love, I will put forward positive vibrations to the world, and I will contain and hold those positive vibrations. And so I will begin to become love itself the more I can hold love within me. But as soon as I respond from a place of fear, then I will start to bring in negative vibrations and frequencies. And if I hold that in there, then it will start to affect me, and I will carry that with me, and I will continue to attract the negative to me. So I thought this was really powerful to understand that I have a lot of control over what I carry, what I attract, and how much peace I can have in my life through what I choose to do, from where I choose to operate from. I want to kind of share with you the vibrations that are created out of, if I'm operating out of love. These are some of the things that go along with positive vibrations that put out more positive. If I show gratitude, if I show compassion, empathy, sympathy, kindness, and or forgiveness, I am operating from a place of love, and I am filling my world and my space up with positive vibrations. As soon as, and I have seen this happen to me, literally change on a dime, if something happens and I go down the path of ungratefulness and not having any gratitude, and oh, woe is me, and how could this happen to me, and this is not fair, and da-da-da-da, and I lose sight in an instant of all the blessings I have because of one particular thing, and I become ungrateful, my whole energy changes into a black cloud. It really does. It's like, what is it, whoever was in the Peanut characters that have the little cloud, that would be me. And I realized how quick it can happen and how much the energy changes around me. And then it creates more of that. The more ungrateful I was, the more I kept drawing more things to be ungrateful for, because I just had a piss poor attitude, all right? Now, how does that happen? Where am I coming from when I show that ungratefulness? It almost always happened when I was operating out of fear. And what was interesting to me about finding out fear is that fear, if I operate out of fear, these are the things that come forward that are fear-based. And that was a new revelation for me, that hate and anger, and especially blame, shame, guilt, that these were born from a fear, from some fearful place. And as I began to be aware that we operate from one of these two places and they generate these things, I started to see how that was possible. How that when I was fearful of, okay, let's just give a little for instance. I went through a divorce, and during the time, of course, I blamed certain things that happened out of that divorce on the other person, all right? Doesn't matter right or wrong. Well, blame of any kind is a negative feeling. Doesn't matter if that person did something. If I want to blame them, shame them, whatever, I'm going to create a negative vibration for myself, which I did. But what I didn't realize is that it really was an underlying factor of fear. I had been a stay-at-home mom. I didn't know how I was going to survive. My anger and blame towards that situation was coming because I was fearful about how I was going to move forward in life after being at home for 21 years, if that makes any sense. But I didn't uncover that for a long, long time. And then it was even longer before, even though I uncovered some aspects of operating from fear, that I really didn't realize I had not released all of the aspects of the blame game. And how every time I played the blame game, it just sent me from this very high place to this very low place, and it can happen in an instant. All right, so maybe I'm all over the place a little bit. I just want to share that I started with myself, understanding where I might operate from so that I could begin to choose differently. So if I understood these things, then I could make a different choice. What was cool about that is I became a more mindful living person. I still fall short of the mark. I still at times fall back into operating from fear and do some of these things, but I can quickly see it now, and then I can quickly pull out of it and not spend, some people get lost stay in this place their whole life, or maybe for a couple of years. And I would have to say that I spent a lifetime in a fear-based living situation. Even though I was kind and compassionate about many things I was operating from fear. So it led me to this more mindful living place. What was really cool, though, is that then I began to be able to do that with others. So I started to have to see for myself that I had a choice. Let's operate more from here. Let's spend more time here. And not operate from here. And so every time something happened, it would give me a chance to make a choice. Let's react. And reaction is usually just a knee-jerk reaction, and it comes from the ego. If something happens and someone's angered me, it's usually that it's hit on some kind of little trigger that's associated with my ego that makes me upset with them. Being easily offended has everything to do with this ego. So when that happened, I would knee-jerk react, act out of this fear-based thing, respond with anger, jealousy, hate, whatever it might be, and go down that path. Now, if I could create some space for myself to think mindfully before I reacted, I would then create space and respond. If you pause and you give a chance to respond, not just a knee-jerk reaction, you're responding from the heart. Reactions are usually generally driven from the ego. There's a little pause right here that allows us to make that choice. And so that pause comes from the fact that what's really cool is that when you're operating from the heart, the element of the heart is air. And air takes up space. And if you release air, it'll just take up as big as the space is, which is kind of cool. When you're in love, you feel like you're walking on air. When the same partner you're in love with gets on your nerves, you feel like I need some space. So space is a big factor of love. When we pause and give space to something to when something has happened to us or affected us, we pause, we mindfully think, and we respond from the heart, then we can operate from this place over here. We're operating from a place of love. What was cool about this thing for me was me being able to apply it more in my own personal life. But what was so amazing was that now, when someone was angry with me, or showed me hate, or blame, or shame, or tried to guilt me, I didn't go to that place and respond back to them from where they were responding to me. I didn't fuel their anger with my anger anymore. And so I quit meeting blame with blame, or anger with anger, or hate with hate, because that never changes anything. I started to meet these things from this place. And even though it didn't necessarily change how that person was acting, I had more compassion for them because I knew that the underlying factors for jealousy, hate, anger, blame was fear. So I had more compassion for the person being angry with me or blaming me for something or showing me negative feelings and reacting to me negatively. I knew that that was fear driven. It's almost like if there's a wounded animal and you, with all good intentions, are trying to help them, they don't understand that because they're fearful, they're wounded. So what happens when you go to help a wounded dog or animal? Often they scratch, bite, lash out at you because they don't know it. That's what happens when we're operating with people that are operating from fear. So a lot of times if I was operating from a fear-based place and someone tried to show me love, I might jump on them. I might bite them because I don't understand it. I don't know that I'm wounded. But now that I know that when I act and respond in these ways, that I'm acting out of fear and it's some emotional wound that I'm carrying, now I'm ready to receive help. I can understand it, and I can understand it in others. And being able to start with ourselves, start making better choices, learning to take that time when the choice is here, pause and respond from the heart, and act and use this respond from the heart, respond from a operating force of love, then I have a lot of control over my life. I have a lot of feel-good parts of my life if I can respond from this place, and I can begin to literally change the world based on how I'm seeing the other people. This was huge for me. So I really hope to get this message out there for us as human beings to understand we're going to operate from one of these two places. And if we can start to see our own wounds and see where we're operating from fear and see how we might lash out. And it doesn't have to even be that it's vicious what we're doing, but I wasn't being hateful to my ex. Always felt like I was being very kind. But in the back of my mind and in the deep part of me, I was blaming that person. I was blaming them for my current situation. And so none of that was going to perpetuate me forward, but I was doing it because I was fearful. And so then I realized, back up. Let's start changing melody. And now when I started to work with other people, I could start to see that when they are acting like this, they're just wounded. And they're acting from fear. So I can offer more love and operate from there because I understand where my own wounds are and how to accept love and response from others, because now I can do it too. Not always. I'm working on it. It is a work in process. I hope you'll join me in sharing this video and starting to be mindful about that minute when you have that second, when you have a choice, and choose to respond from the heart and operate from love, and understand it when someone is operating from fear. Maybe you can just keep your heart open. Don't close off those walls. Keep it open and love them regardless. Offer love back no matter how much you meet the other. And may we all work on not operating from these places. I appreciate your time and watching this video, and I hope you'll share it with others, and may we create a better world.